Well, everyone's probably fully aware, if they clicked on this video, that Mathieu van der Poel got arrested on the eve of the men's road race, and in the event of all that, he didn't get enough sleep and he pulled out of the race early because he probably brain was all foggy and so forth. But a lot of people have made videos on this and they kind of touched on bits of information, but they haven't been very concrete in why this happened, what situation it would have been in, and why did it end up in such a dramatic arrest and his passport being taken, and now he has to attend court. Well, let's roll an intro and let's have a bit of a talk about, and we can set the environment and the culture in Australia, because I'm Australian, I know how it works here, and we can discuss how the hell did this all get out of control. Now, the first thing we need to discuss is Australian and Australian culture. And when you look at Australian culture, we're very West in our views, and our country is very progressive or liberal if you come from America. So a lot of people in America call liberal like the Democrats, but in Australia, when we say liberal, they're the conservatives. So it's kind of backwards. But Australia has a very progressive or liberal viewpoint, especially when it comes to male-female interaction. And what you need to understand when it comes to men and women and assault, where it's extremely sensitive here, and even you just standing in a doorway blocking a female from leaving a room is considered assault, and you can get in trouble as a man for that. So the sensitivity towards these situations is really sensitive. And even when there is some altercation between a man and a woman, the police in some states are required that they must arrest someone and take them from that site to defuse that situation. They can't just go, oh, looks like nothing's happening here, and just leave. So this is the type of environment, the legal and policing environment that we are in when you talk about Australia. Now, the second thing we need to understand in this environment here is the type of hotel he was staying in. And I think this actually probably was one of the key factors why this got out of control. Now, when we look at this hotel, hotel's not like a five-star hotel. It's not like a hotel where you would think that people who are businessmen are staying, people who are multimillionaires or billionaires are staying, which have got a lot of security. Not like a casino where there's a lot of security because there's money and there's gambling and there's probably people who have been drinking. It's not that type of hotel. It's kind of like the hotel where you've got the family and they can afford a bit of a nice hotel, and it's got a pool when they take the kids with them and they're sitting by the pool in their lay-low and they're having a few cocktails, maybe a few beers, and it's very relaxed, and you've got kids running up and down the hallways and running around screaming and carrying on. It's that sort of a hotel. So the security level of the hotel is usually pretty minimal, and if you wanted to get into that hotel and kind of sit by the pool and buy a few cocktails, you're not supposed to be there, you could probably get in pretty easy. So that's the type of hotel it was, and I think that has a major factor on how this altercation came about. Now, the third thing that we need to consider is because Mathieu van der Poel is an elite athlete. Now, people may say, hey, look, he kind of let his anger get the better of him and all that. But you need to understand that this is his job. It's like if you're a businessman and you had flown to another part of the world and you were signing to close a very significant deal, which, which is worth multi-million dollars, and you're probably a bit nervous and there's a bit of anticipation, and you want to get a good night's sleep, and you want to be prepared to be able to have your head clear so you can look at the contracts or discuss with them what this enterprise is going to be about, and you want to be right on the point when it comes to discussing this with the other company. So this is a sort of situation because Mathieu van der Poel, that's his job. He's employed as an elite athlete. His job is to perform. When he gets in that race, he has to perform. and there's lots of millions of dollars behind it, a lot of sponsors, everyone who wants him to perform. So he wants to go to bed the night before. He wants to have a complete sleep. So he is able to perform at his best on the day of the race. And this probably made him quite agitated once he started hearing some noise, kids running up and down the hallway, knocking on the door. He claims they knocked on his door twice. That could have been kids just playing around. Maybe they were knocking on everyone's doors. Who knows? I'm just speculating currently. So these sorts of things, when you go to these kind of holiday hotels, are pretty common. I've even experienced such things when I've been away, because people are there and their kids are there and their kids are running around, up and down the hallway, going up and down the lifts, they're going down to the pool, they're going back up to the room to get something, going back down to see their parents are probably sitting at the cocktail bar by the pool having a drink. So these are the type of situations that occur when you stay in these sorts of hotels. So now we've got all of the environmental conditions out of the way and the state of mind of the people who on that evening before the race would have been sinking. So the situation currently is he was alleged that he pushed one of two girls. So he must have opened the doors, he must have spoke to two girls, I imagine, and whatever happened is he pushed one of these girls and one of them fell over and bruised her elbow, apparently, allegedly, and these two girls were apparently around about 13 or 14 years of age. So I'd probably call them more children than teenagers. So they're probably a bit silly and were doing silly things or just doing things for fun. They wouldn't have had any sort of adult thinking about maybe this guy's an elite athlete and we want to see him. Probably not. Probably just was the kids having fun. And the other thing that people haven't really mentioned a lot is that it was the hotel staff that rang the police. It wasn't just some other guest complaining or whatever. The hotel staff rang the police. And probably what happened is once the girl was crying, had fallen over, the staff came up, or maybe even Van der Poel rang the staff because he wanted to get some sleep. He wanted someone to come up and look, or even the parents of the children could have rang. We don't know. That's all speculation. But what happened is the hotel staff got involved. They rang the police. Now, they dragged him off. When the police came, as I said before, the police in these sorts of situations are kind of not encouraged, but have to arrest someone when there's a male-female altercation or some sort of assault. In a number of the states, they actually have to arrest someone and take them down to the station, right? They may not charge them, but they need to remove them from that premises. So they probably were doing as they were supposed to be doing and acted as the police are supposed to. So you can't blame the police for doing what they're supposed to be doing. Unfortunately, he was returned back to his room at 4 a.m. and they also withheld his passport. Now, the fact that they withhold their passport, that's a pretty common thing. There's been a number of VIPs that come to Australia. They get involved in some sort of issue. To stop them leaving the country, they take their passport, so they have to come and attend court. Now, Mathieu Van der Poel claims in a statement that the girls knocked on his door 2 times. And I can imagine because he was obviously trying to get sleep, trying to be 100% ready for a very, very big race the next day, he would have been triggered, that's for sure, 100%. Like, why can't these kids just shut up? Stop making noise. I'm trying to get some sleep here, right? Now, he basically says in his comments, which was kind of, I thought, a bit humorous. Instead of saying, I pushed the girls, he said, I did not kindly ask to stop. He did not ask them kindly to stop. So obviously he came out and he was talking quite maybe aggressively. Maybe he didn't say anything to him. Maybe he just pushed them. I don't know. But he wasn't happy. Basically, that's what he was saying. Now, he has to attend court. That's going to happen on Tuesday, the 27th of September. That's Australian time. And I know a lot of places around the world, like America, we're on the other side of the date line. So they're a day behind. So one fell over and grazed the elbow. So that was the issue. And unfortunately, that's considered common assault. So that's where we are with that. So in conclusion, when we look at this from a bird's eye view, I really have to say to myself, this happened because I do feel that Mathieu van der Poel was in the wrong environment. I've done a bit of research on the hotel, and I've shown you a few pictures that you've seen there, and you can see this is like a holiday resort. This is not a kind of business hotel. It's more of a holiday hotel. And I don't know who booked that hotel or if they did any research, but this is completely the wrong venue for having a high-level athlete staying. These sorts of things like noisy children and all that, I've stayed in these type of hotels myself. It's pretty commonplace. The culture in Australia is people let their kids run around. They don't really keep them under control, like maybe in some other countries. The kids sort of run around free, especially when people are on holidays. They let the kids sort of run amok. They go up and down. As long as they're in the hotel, the parents kind of think they're okay. So that probably was the situation. And they could have been just running up and down the hallway and banging on every door. So this is the wrong situation. The team that was paying for him to be at that hotel, whoever booked that hotel, I don't know why they put them there. Just for the cost of maybe $2,000 or $3,000 more, when we're talking about millions of dollars for a team to go to the World Championships, this is pretty ordinary, right? I don't know why he was in a 4-star hotel in this sort of type of venue. It just kind of blows my mind, really. Now, the second thing is, and you can't blame Mathieu van der Poel for this because people may be unaware of Australian culture and the sensitivity to male-female interaction and putting your hands on a woman. Like in Australia, if you're a man, you put your hand on a woman, even just touching them in a workplace or whatever. As I said, even standing in a doorway in some situations, you just can't do that here. It's like, that's just not on. You know, as a man, you are very aware of that in Australia, that you need to be hands off, right? Very much hands off women at all times. And otherwise, you can get yourself into a lot of deep water. So that may be something that he wasn't aware of. Wherever he normally lives, I don't know if he lives in his birth country, because I know a lot of these guys live in tax havens and all sorts of other places, especially when they're cycling. Maybe the viewpoint to that sort of culture could be quite different. I know in some European countries it is. So that probably was an ignorance from Mathieu van der Poel, what he could do, what he could get away with. So it's kind of a bit disappointing, really. And what I see as well from the Australian side of things is that we like these high-level athletes to come to our country, and then we like them to compete, and it brings money into our country. And Australia is actually a very sports-orientated country. A lot of people play sports, and it's a lot of people in Australia watch sports. It's really big in Australia. We have really good weather here, so we can do a lot of outdoor activities. And this just leaves a bad taste in people's mouth, because we also had the incident with the tennis where we had a person come, they'd got a visa, they'd been given a visa, but when they landed, they were detained and they couldn't get into the country, and eventually they were sent home. And there was a lot of toing and froing in the courts between federal and state, and people go, what the hell's going on? People don't get to see their hero play the sport or compete, and really it changes the outcome of the event. It doesn't give the event as much status as it would have had. And I think this could actually be very, very negative for Australia in the long run, because what will happen is in future, these athletes go, I've got to fly halfway around the world, get on a flight for like 16 hours or even more, go to Australia, stay in some divey hotel where kids are running up and down the hallway. And really, as far as money goes for the teams and the exposure, we just go, why bother taking all our sports equipment and everything to Australia when half the time they don't really want us to be there? We get in trouble for doing these minor things, whatever. So we just won't go to Australia in the future. So what it will do is it'll downgrade our sporting events, because the only people who will compete will be just the average Joe Blows who have got nothing to lose. But the people who go, why do I need to go to Australia for? And risk my career, risk getting a fine, risk going to court, whatever, won't go. I'll just ride the European tour. I won't go to Australia. So I think in the whole scheme of things, what's happened here is really quite negative. And unfortunately, because of the way that the culture is in Australia being progressive and liberal, that it probably can't be backed away from. Because I would think in this situation, there's a lot of things to consider. But when you look at a case in a courtroom, the judge is not allowed to take into account all of these other items that could impact the people coming to Australia in the future, sporting activities, the money that brings to the country, and even that were these kids kind of doing the right thing, banging on people's doors or running up. That doesn't come into it. What will be looked at in court is, did he push the girl? If he did, guilty. Simple as that. Well, anyway, guys, leave your comments down below. I hope I've covered everything to do with it. From what evidence and information is available, there probably will be more information that comes out in due course, especially after the court case, and I will give some updates to that as well. But that's where I'm going to leave it, guys, and I will see you next vid.